Hey Art Nerds, we are going to be talking about the element of value. And simply put, value refers to the lights and also the darks within a specific hue. And that's basically all there is to it. And how artists use value is to convey light. Because without light, we do not see color, we do not see values, we can't see shadows. But even a single drawing utensil, like this pencil I have here, can have a great number of values, where it goes from super, super dark, got our darks here, we got our mid-tones, and we also have our lights. All right, and that only is executed by, when you're using a pencil, is drawing super dark. So if I press really hard with my pencil, I get this nice dark gray. If I gently press with my pencil and barely touch the paper, I get a nice soft gray. Okay, now this is true not just for when you work with regular pencil or with charcoal. If you throw in some color pencil in there, I can also get some nice dark values of a specific hue. And then as I go lighter and lighter, I can get those light colors as well. Now, you can go on this further, and by adding, I'm going to extend the section that's a little bit darker. If I go back and I add some black, okay, this works especially when you're working with paint. By adding black, you create what we call a shade. So let's jot that down for you. You got a shade, like in the shade of a tree, okay? And you create a darker value of that hue. Whenever you have a lighter one, and sometimes it's really nice to use white color pencil to blend, or when you're working with paint, adding white to a hue can lighten it, and that creates what we call a tint, okay? So tint is plus white, shade is plus black. And if you kind of mix, the white and black together, you have gray. So if you have hue plus gray, that equals something called tone. All right. So those are some of the big, basic things we talk about value. It's essentially the lights and darks of things. And that's how we're also able to make things look 3D. For instance, if I have this cube, a nice, simple, basic cube, and I want it to look like there is light shining from the sun down onto my object, okay? How light works is whatever it is closest to, whatever faces it, that ends up being the lightest section. And on the opposite side, because the light's being blocked, it creates what we call a shadow on the opposite side. All right? And then you have, a lot of times, a darker value on the side that's closest to your shadow, one that's kind of in the middle where it gets a little bit of the light, but then the top will be the lightest, okay? And this is how artists use value to create the illusion that there is light, because I don't actually have a sun shining on this cube, it is just a drawing. Now, on your exercise, when we work with value, you're going to be doing a couple of things. The first bit talks about a value scale. So basically, you are taking this right here, and you're inserting it right here, where you're going from light to dark. I like starting on the dark end, just like I did here, because it's a lot easier to gently get lighter and get those light values. So starting off super dark, okay, and this is as hard as your pencil can press. Notice how my pencil is moving up and down, okay, not this way, because if I was going this way and try to make it gradually lighter and gradually lighter, I end up having these chunks, these sections, okay? That is more for this top section, okay? So for down here, we want what we call a gradient, where I'm going very slowly and using my pencil going up and down, getting darker and darker and darker as I move this way across towards the dark section. Up here, you're going to be creating a segmented gradient, okay? So this is a value scale where I have one block that's super dark, fill it in the rest of the way. One that's a little bit lighter, fill it in the rest of the way. A little bit lighter, fill it in. a little bit lighter, fill it in. And this one, you can be super light or you can even leave it white, leave it blank. Okay, now I already talked about tints and shades right here. We talked about how adding white is creating a tint, adding shade is black. Okay, so let's apply this to working with colored pencils. Okay, so tint is when you add white to a hue. So if I have a hue, so this is where my hue is going to be, hue, hue. Okay, so I'd be filling this in with whatever color I want. Okay, we already did this stuff. Okay, so you're actually doing a color. Okay, fill it in the rest of the way, obviously, so it doesn't look as sloppy as mine. And then if I add white, oh, this is already white, so I can leave it. And then down here is adding black. So I would use my black color pencil and I'd fill this in the whole way. And what happens is I want to create the mixture of these two. So to mix my tint, I'm going to use a hue plus white. So I'm going to sort of medium shade in this square. And after I medium shade in this square, I'm going to use my white color pencil as a blending tool. Okay, and it smooths out my color pencil and it doesn't make my lines quite as streaky. Okay, but see how it's a much lighter value than my original hue here. Now down here in the shade, I'm going to do the same thing, starting off with that medium. Okay, I like going more of a circular motion with a color pencil so you don't see the lines quite so bad. Filling that in all the way, and then taking my black and going over top of it, and it kind of mixes these two colors together, the black and my kind of sky blue. And then I created a nice shade. And sometimes, depending on what I'm feeling or what kind of color I am looking for as an outcome, I go over top with my hue again. And that also helps kind of mix and blend it together. Okay. Now this bottom part, notice how it's putting both of it together. We got the tint, we have the shade, and we have the hue. So what you have is you're going to be filling this in with the solid hue. This is going to be filled in with the shade. Okay. This is going to be filled in with the tint. Okay. You know, I'm going to be finishing these up, you know, obviously much nicer than what you see on my example here. Okay. And then using the white to blend it. Now, I know that the more I add black, the darker it gets. So this one is going to have less black than the one right underneath the shade. Okay, so if I fill this all the way in, and I have about this much black in here, that means I want a little bit less here since it's in between my darker blue and my straight up blue. Now with this one, with the tint, okay, essentially I just want to make it a little bit darker than the tint, but a little bit lighter than the hue, and that happens just by pressing not quite so hard with your pencil. And then once again using that white color pencil to blend it in nicely. So I hope this is helpful. Remember, you can use whatever color for your hue. Remember to make sure that this is nice and blended. Actually, one fun way to blend it is actually just to take either a tissue or your finger, and that kind of blends and smooths that out really nice. A little bit dirty, but that's kind of fun. And then making sure that you have your pencil moving up and down as you get lighter and lighter versus going side to side. That'll help you so much. Anyways, I hope that this is helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.